Okay, I believe we are right.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Tuesday.
Hello, campers.
Hello. Hello. Are they LinkedIners or just inners?
Yes.
Yeah.
We cover all the bases here. Hi, I'm Blaine Bartlett, and
I'm Dolan White.
we are here with the power of you.
That's right.
And this is a regular show. We're doing this 2 times a week, and the
Yeah.
whole focus is, just take bite-sized chunks and do a deep dive on leadership, a bite-sized chunk of leadership, and then just take half hour, 45 minutes, and see what we can uncover in a conversation. None of this is rehearsed. I mean, we don't really have a script or anything. Number one, we just got to have fun hanging out together. So we thought we'll do it publicly.
True.
Yeah, and we got a couple of decks that we play off of, but this one is the 5 lies of leadership. We're going to be wrapping that up today.
Yeah, which means we've done lies 1 through 4, just in case somebody's asking what that means. So we've talked about lies 1 through 4. We'll tell you what the lies were, but we're going to dive really hard into. We can spend the whole time just on the last one.
The last one, lie number 5, and we'll jump right into it there. So I'm going to just bring a slide deck up here, and we'll see what we got. And voila, the 5 lies of leadership. Hey, did you see how seamless that was? And I didn't.
That was.
I got it corrected, so your name doesn't. The white doesn't drop down to a different line. I finally figured out how to do that. We are nothing if not technically proficient here.
We are. The prowess is starting to ooze.
Ooze? That sounds kind of strange.
Anyway. Well, probably wrong descriptor.
There you go.
There you go.
Dolan and I both are students of Stoic philosophy. And I've been studying it for a whole bunch of years, a passel of years, a bushel of years, if you will, just a lot of time. One of the stalwarts in Stoic philosophy is this fellow by the name, got a strange name, Epictetus. I can never pronounce it, but I always stumble on it. But I love this because it talks about how we find ourselves enslaved by other people's opinions and what we think they think of us. And this was in a document that he wrote. He wrote a bunch of letters, a manuscript. This was from something called the Enchiridion, and it was book 28. If a person gave away your body to some passerby, you'd be furious. And I mean, that literally speaks to the notion of slavery. I mean, nobody wants to be enslaved. Yet, if you hand over your mind to anyone who comes along, so they may abuse you, leaving it disturbed and troubled, you have no shame in that. And most of us don't even give, a gnat's thinking to the fact that our brains get hijacked, our minds get hijacked all the time through, we find ourselves doom scrolling. We find ourselves listening to propaganda masked as news because people want us to think a certain way and then act on that thinking. Most of us end up not thinking for ourselves. We start letting other people think for us. And that is what he's speaking to here. Have you no shame in that? And this whole conversation, this power of you conversation is organized around how do you lead yourself before you can lead anybody else or lead an organization.
Yeah. I think that's a really important point. I mean, there's, people. I think if you're watching this, or if you're watching it kind of post alive here on LinkedIn or YouTube, you lose track of the fact that when you think of leader, everybody kind of jumps to, okay, well, what's the size of my team, and what's my title, and what am I doing, and what's the outcome, and what's my quota. There's a lot of things that kind of come into that, but you're not a leader until you lead you.
Spot on.
And you just aren't. You gotta lead. So hence the theme, which is the power of you. The whole theme is really focused around how you be the best leader you can possibly be. So that's my little, other than the redneck in me reminds me, and having come from Alabama, it reminds me of about of the don't let the stupidity of others make you stupid too. So
And that's all too prevalent today. Yeah.
yeah, it
In a
is.
whole-
Yeah, it is. And it's easy it could be many landscapes that cause that. It can be political nature inside of the company,
Mhm.
political nature in politics in general. It could be political nature in your business. It could be
The
organization.
politics in the family.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We won't even.
Politics is about who has control, who aggregates power, and who has control. That's what
That's
politics
right.
is about.
I
And
can say clearly, my wife isn't home at the moment, so I am in control. So,
well, my dogs are running around, so clearly they're in control right now. So,
on that note,
on that note, here we go. The 5 lies.
yeah,
We've covered 4 of these.
yeah. Lie number 1: you think you must maintain strict control over decisions and outcomes.
Yeah.
Oh boy, yeah,
Boy, that was day 1 when we started doing this thing, and the whole idea there is I am my results. So I've got a death grip on this.
right. I'm gonna make diamonds. Here we go. We're doing it. Lie number 2: you believe you must appear invulnerable.
Don't let them see you sweat. Don't let them see you sweat. That idea of vulnerability, people connect through vulnerability. They disconnect through certainty. So from a leadership perspective, if you're bought into number 2, that lie number 2, you give no room, no space for people to actually connect with you. And it becomes real difficult to cause movement effectively when you're in that place.
Yeah. Yep. We could go back and revisit it, but that was the first one. That was the first 2 we did. The third one we did, which was the next round, which was you believe that outcomes are all that matter.
And that is the focus on the end rather than the process. And it's the process that actually gets you to the promised land. It's not a focus on the outcome. And if you buy into the outcomes are all that matter, you almost immediately start locking into lie number 1 and lie number 2.
Oh yeah. There's such a thread. And then you assume, lie number 4, you assume you must make every decision independently.
I am the boss. I'm the boss. At least my dogs think that they are, but
they're doing their job. They're patrolling the borders and letting you know when somebody's in for.
So. Yeah, well, on the border, I think a deer just walked by.
Oh, could be from where
Bambi. Yeah.
Oh. So, but anyway, you assume you must make, and that is that again, these all connect. There's nuances to each that separates them from a behavioral perspective, your behavior and the impact on your team. There's a lot of nuances to these. But today, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, and what's interesting about line number 4 is it actually does move into line number 5, because line number 4 basically says, I'm the boss. This is the lie. I'm the boss. I'm supposed to know what to do.
Right.
And then I'm going to act on that supposed knowing, which is driven by line number 5.
Yeah. You avoid feedback, thinking it reflects your inadequacy. I am less. Speaking of that I am statement, I am inadequate.
So when we're looking at defining leadership, here's where these lies can get you into a whole world of hurt.
Yeah.
Leadership isn't about, cracking a whip and moving things down the highway. My way or the highway sort of a deal here. Leadership, in the way that we define it, and this is the work we do with our clients. Leadership's the activity of influencing. It takes command and control out of the mix. Influencing, this is a state of being. It's, this is why I lead myself first. How do I show up? There's a resonance about me. I mean, and I mean, literally, I show up as a frequency that people resonate with. And that's either invitational or it's got to push, it's got to push me or pull me, sort of an attractor to it.
Yeah.
So influencing, not command and control, in order to co-create ownership transfers. It's not my idea any longer. I've worked with you in such a way that you now go, aha, there's something in this for me that I really value. You're not telling me why it's important. I've discovered why it's important. Co-creation now becomes something, and this is where emotional engagement starts to kick in. We're moving into uncharted territory. By definition, leaders cause movement, and they're by hopefully moving you into places you've never been before, because that's a sign of growth. And if you're going someplace you've never been before, you don't know how to get there. You don't know how to navigate it well. So coordinated movement comes into play, because you're going to step on each other's toes, guaranteed. So how do you actually mitigate that? So this is another piece of this whole puzzle. And if you're locked into one of those 5 lies, you're going to have a lot of difficulty getting coordinated movement in place. And the final piece here, and it's the foundation to this whole definition: pursuit of a worthy ideal, something that is worthy of who we are. It's not a 10% increase in revenue. We know how to do that. We did it last year. So there's it's kind of yeah. So what? I don't grow. There's nothing there for me to aspire to. And aspiration is what we want to make possible.
Yes. And if as you look at this, and maybe one time Blaine and I we'll take a whole hour and just spend an hour in this definition of what leadership is really all about. But as a leader, this may be a new statement to you, or if you've seen our other videos together where we've done the other shows that we've done together on the Power of You, you'll see where we've talked. We start here. We start here with what's a leader. But as a leader, think about the 4 pieces. Influencing others. Am I influencing or am I managing? Am I telling or am I influencing? Start there with that question. Then ask yourself, am I co-creating coordinated movement? Am I working with my team so that there is buy-in and ownership? Am I communicating? Am I being transparent? Are we working towards a worthy ideal? And the worthy ideal is not increase revenue by 10%. It's meaningless to the fork truck driver down in the warehouse. He's moving, he doesn't care, or she. Yeah. Doesn't matter, but whoever's driving the forklift, it doesn't matter. So as a leader, think about these, and it's a good place just to ground and connect with who you are, to think about, am I really influencing? How do I, if I'm micro, what do I shift to influence? How do I co-create? What am I going to do to co-create? And then how am I creating coordinated movement? What does that look like? And then, do I really know what the ideal is? What's my ideal? What's their ideal?
And then moving in that direction.
Yeah, so that we're all moving towards something that is meaningful.
And you can't tell somebody what the worthy ideal is. Yeah.
What's that?
I said, you can't tell somebody what the worthy ideal is for them. You have to invite them to explore it. Here's where I'd like to go. What does this allow you to have, do, or be that you wouldn't get to have, do, or be if we didn't do this?
Yeah.
That's a question that sparks interest. It's kind of, I hadn't thought about that before. That's a question that's almost never asked in an organization.
Yeah, exactly. People don't think about, well, you can fake authenticity, but you can look at just to throw that out there. But anyway,
yeah.
All right, we can go on, but that's leadership. So line number 5, Mr. Bartlett.
The lie is you avoid feedback thinking that it reflects on your inadequacy. That is a lie. Feedback, and this is a direct quote from Ken Blanchard, the situational leadership guy, 1-minute manager, all of those sorts of classics. Yeah, I was on stage with Ken in Denmark a number of years ago, and I actually heard him say this to the group that we were speaking at. He said, "Feedback is the breakfast of champions." And what was funny about that, and this is just a little anecdote, the airline had lost his clothes. Lost his luggage, with it, his clothes. So he did the presentation in the tracksuit, the gym clothes that he wore, his warm-ups and that kind of stuff. He did the presentation with a group of about 300 people, and he's going, "Give me feedback about this. Yeah, was I effective?" And he literally, was I effective in delivering this? And most people would get consumed with, how do I look? How am I presenting myself? Am I being? No. His interest was, did this land? Was this impactful? Did this engage you? So he solicited feedback from a very vulnerable position. I mean, just imagine yourself going out in front of 300 people that paid a premium to see you, the leadership guru, come and talk, and you're showing up in your tracksuit. It's kind of like, hey, what it is. He had no sense of inadequacy, none whatsoever. And that's where this comes into play. As a leader, we have to go out of our ways. I mean, literally go out of our ways to solicit feedback from others, not in terms of, anything really other than what kind of impact am I having on you, on us, and on the organization? What kind of an impact am I having? Because at the end of the day, that's what leadership's about. It's about impact. Am I getting in the way, or am I actually facilitating movement?
Yeah. And it's funny, I think, Blaine, it's funny how there is this perception, right? When I ask for feedback, I am relinquishing control. I am diminishing my authority, right? Because we misinterpret leadership with role and authority.
Mm-hmm.
So leadership, so I'm the C umpty squat inside of the organization, and therefore I have this role, and with that role comes this authority level, and therefore if I ask you for feedback or if I solicit feedback, I'm relinquishing those things.
Yep.
And it is actually the inverse that happens. First of all, your role, your title doesn't matter. It's not important.
That's true.
Your title's not important. How you lead is important. Your title is something that goes on your resume and it helps you and blah, blah, blah. There's things you can do. But one of the things that I used to love to do in my career, and I've done, God, I was thinking about it this morning when I was looking at this slide for years and years and years and years. So at one point in time in my life, so I spent 30 years in the software industry. And as part of my career in the software industry, I was a regional sales dude and, carried $200 million quota and had all the stuff. And it used to freak my team out when they would take me out, because I'm like the big guy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's bring him in and he's going to close the deal. And my deal, I actually never really cared if people bought or didn't buy, which meant they usually bought because I didn't care. So another day, another conversation. But I would always end up back in the car with the sales rep or the system engineer or the team or whoever, or we'd go have a cup of coffee or an iced tea or something afterwards. And I used to love to ask him a question that just stumped the crud out of him. How'd I do?
Mm-hmm.
What could I have, give me two things I could have done better that would have helped me have more, even if we closed the deal and I was the first $1 million seller in this software company and all kinds of stuff, right? Great stuff. Good deal. But what did I do? How did I do it? What could I have done better that would have created greater impact and moved us closer to the goal or changed a relationship or solved a problem? What could I have done? And I think as leaders, we forget about the fact that when we're asking for that feedback, right? When you solicit and you avoid the feedback, it's more important rather than waiting for that annual review period where people do a 360, supposedly.
Yeah.
Do micro feedback moments.
Yeah.
Over that cup of coffee, whatever, we used to have I had our hard, fast rule. If we closed a big deal, we never involved alcohol because that would that skews things way out of line. So we'd go have coffee or an iced tea or I would spring for donuts. That was a big deal. So, but use those moments, to solicit micro feedback. Just, how did I do? What could I have done better? It's kind of like at the end of a keynote. What, did wearing my sweats detract from the fact that I had a message to deliver today?
Yeah. 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 And, you're speaking about, I think, one of the very crucial things that actually prevents a lot of people from asking for feedback is they don't know how to ask for it. Yeah. I mean,
great point.
The idea here, and particularly if I'm in a leadership role, There, by definition, there's a power differential. Yeah, specifically if I'm asking feedback from either my peers or less with my peers, but more with my, the people that report to me, the folks that I'm leading, there is that power differential. So when you say, give me feedback, it's kind of like, I mean, as soon as the word feedback is spoken, it's deer in the headlights, sort of a, I don't know what to do with this. So one of the skills from a leadership perspective has to do with being able to, two things: shape the listening of people. What do you want them to listen for? And you do this beforehand. I want you to listen to this presentation. I don't want to critique on it necessarily from the standpoint of what did I, land it in a timely fashion. Here's what I want you to listen for. Did I hit the major points that we think are salient to what we're trying to do? So you shape their listening, as well as their listening. I'm sure they're listening, and then you shape how they actually deliver the feedback. So when you are ready to say, how'd I do? It's not just how'd I do. Can you give me 3 examples of where I hit the mark in this area? So they kind of go glove in hand. You want to set people up so that they know what to do, because just a blanket, I'm going to ask you for some feedback later. It's kind of like, I don't know what the hell.
They don't know.
And especially if it's a peer, and this is the politics piece, if there's a peer involved and they're juggling for position or something, you want to be very mindful of that. And I'm not assigning any malicious intent to anybody, and people have their own agendas. They have their own agendas. So being able to shape your question, or your request, more precisely, your request is important. Shape it in a way that people know what to do with it. Shape it in a way that you are likely to get exactly the kind of information that you need so that you can course correct. And oftentimes that can be, I'm going to ask you to help me with some things. I'm working on something right now. I'd like you to help me with this. And you're not going to do this, with the entire organization. Get a couple of key advisors whose opinion you value. You don't have to like them. They can actually be your rivals, but you value their opinion.
Right.
You think that they got a good head on their shoulders.
Yeah. And matter of fact, if they're your rivals, all the better.
All the better.
Because they'll tell you things those who are your friends won't tell you. They'll tell you stuff. You have to weigh it, and you have to listen to it carefully, and compare it to radical candor. Are we giving me effective feedback, or are you just telling me I'm short and overweight? I'm not sure what we're doing. But it's point to your point. I think one of the things that not to really let's unpack it for just a minute. But one of the things that comes out of this feedback loop as a leader, right? Because it's a leader's obligation to also provide feedback, and provide it in the right format, and provide it radically, and provide it with the right intention. You're not there to harm. You're there to hurt. Not there to harm or hurt. You're there to help improve, right? But it's interesting, because I think as a leader, if you listen to the feedback and you weigh it in your mind about what is it that I learned from this feedback, what do I take away from it, and you frame it with the right intention on what is it that I need to improve. If it's a gap in feedback over a misunderstanding, then I need to focus on my communication and my transparency, or my accountability, or my commitment, or what do I need to improve upon. And don't just think about it. Pick up a pencil, write it down, make it part of your plan, and make it part of your thinking, so that you're looking for those gaps. We're not looking for. We talk about this in our challenge. One of the days in our challenge, Blaine, we talk about good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that it's not bad. It's that, what muscle am I going to the gym to work on? I'm going to work on this muscle today. Today I'm doing biceps. Tomorrow I'm going to do squats. But today I'm going to do biceps. And I'm going to, not that I go to the gym and work on biceps or not. My son does. But it's those. Well, I don't know, he does. I know he works out, and I feel better for it. But by that act, and knowing that you use the leverageable moments, it's not a matter of impacting your inadequacy. You don't, I am inadequate. It is, I have the opportunity to even become sharper.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the keys on this, I think, is the feedback actionable? To your point, short,
Right.
short and overweight. It's kind of like, okay, what do I do with that? Yeah. What do I do with that? That's not actionable. It's kind of like, whatever. Feedback is designed in the way that we're looking at it through this lens of leadership. Leadership causes movement. So is the feedback going to be useful to me in causing more effective movement? Is it actionable? That's, when you're positioning people to give you feedback, this is one of the criteria that you want them to be, considering. It's kind of like, well, your voice was a little raspy when you were talking about that. I mean, if I'm talking to RFK, it's kind of, Kennedy, who's now the head of health and
Maha,
whatever it is.
Yeah,
Bobby.
Right.
But he's got this raspy voice. And so if I'm going to give him feedback about, when you were talking to the Senate confirmation group, your voice was a little raspy. It's kind of like, okay, fine. Yeah. Nothing he can do about that.
Right.
That's a physical thing that he's got going on. Nothing he can do about that.
Right.
So that feedback is useless.
Right. However, and actually I met Bob. He's a really nice man, but very interesting character. But one of the things that comes out of that is the effective of it. So it also becomes a teaching moment.
Yeah.
It's that moment, and it's kind of like, well, I'm glad you consider me voice raspy, or I'm short and overweight. That's interesting. But what I'm looking for are things, small hinges, what moves the door, little things that matter. The fact that I coughed in the middle or sneezed or my buttons weren't in line with my zipper and all of the other possible things that could go on. Those are great. That's cool. Exactly. Yeah. I remember taking class in that from a guy named Dr. Faust, but anyway, another day, another story. But it is that what are you telling me that makes it actionable? And I agree, because one of the, going into, we would go through an entire exercise on the intention for the conversation we're having today.
Yep.
When I was going out to a client, here's what we're looking for. Here's the outcome we're anticipating. So that when I could ask that question at the end, I didn't want it, there's all those steps that go into that. But then the last step is the feedback that I'm receiving meaningful? Is it actionable? And if it's not, how do I help you how do I help you become more observant of that? So you're thinking about that feedback from, what hinge am I moving by telling Doland, dude, you got to walk away from the Big Macs, which I'm not going to do.
Which you're not going to do.
I'm not going to do that.
No, not Eggs Benedict.
Yeah, or Eggs Benedict. That I'm definitely never walking away from. But it's funny, because I agree with you, Blaine. I think that, from a leader's perspective, it's easy to get hung in, and particularly as a new leader, or that young leader leading older individuals, because there's also the circumstances where people come in and they're placed into a leadership dynamic, and they're automatic, and there's a small, we're all human, we're all flawed, small amount of intimidation where I'm leading someone here, right? So I need to make sure that,
I show up. I'm not in. Yeah.
I'm holding my own, man. I'm not gonna, I don't need your feedback. I got this, which creates distance and all kinds of other problems. But yeah, it's really interesting and I love about the statement about Breakfast of Champions. Champions solicit feedback. How could I run faster? What could I have done?
The military, and I'm speaking directly here to the U.S. military. They've got something that they call after action reviews. And during war game scenarios where they're actually out in the field doing things, they run the whole thing. At the end, they come in, bars come off, stripes come off. Everybody, there is no rank, and now the focus is on what worked, what didn't work, what can we do better.
Yeah.
All three of those points are around actionable information, actionable feedback. So, Colonel, when you did that, okay, I'm not a colonel, but you don't worry about the power differential. I just want to hear honest observational data so that we can become better at what we're doing. The breakfast of champions is feedback.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you take all of this, take feedback and you tie it back into the definition of leadership, this conversation around feedback fits every component of leadership. It fits all of the 4 domains that we talk about in that sentence. It hooks into that because feedback tells you whether it's you're co-creating movement, is the movement coordinated? Am I inspiring you or am I telling you?
And is it in service of that worthy ideal? Did we keep that as a primary focus as we did this?
Yeah. Did we have an ethical break? Did we break something ethically?
Yeah.
So
one of the things that well, not you, but when you were COO at the Brave Thinking Institute, every meeting that I ever attended there, every session that I ever was privy to, started with an overview of the organization's value core, and not just a rote recitation, but it's kind of like, how are we using these values to inform the decisions that we're making? That's where are we missing? Where are we hitting it? What do we need to reinforce?
Yeah. Are we in alignment or out of alignment? Did we come out of this and that's it's a great point. And I contribute that to Mary and her tenacity inside of the Institute for building solid core values. But in all companies, and it's fun just to digress for a second, which I do periodically. It's funny if you're watching this, and one of the things I will ask you is, what are the core values of your company? And can you say them without looking them up?
And can you think of examples of how they're being utilized?
Yes. What do they, because if you can't say them without looking them up, then they're not here. And that's a lesson I learned from one of the individuals I work with. But when they're committed into your mind, they're committed into your heart, which commits them into alignment. So which commits you into understanding the ethical boundaries and the cost of violating a boundary. Not punitive as I'm going to lose my job, but punitive as in other things can occur. So so core values that could be a whole nother power of you conversation about core.
It absolutely could. Yeah. How do you use values? There's values in practice, and then there's the ones that we talk about that ends up being artwork on a wall.
Exactly.
You got values in your company? Yeah, it's right over there. Yeah. I'm sitting on them. They're in this little 3x5 card that I've got. Yeah. I'm sitting on them.
We do a strategy session with a company and had them say, okay, so and we were at the beginning of the strategy session. It's like, okay, we're going to do 2 things. Very first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about core values. Who wants to tell the core values? And it was crickets.
Yeah.
Because I can see people clicking and looking things up. And go, no. Right here. Look here.
Yeah.
Right. And then we're going to do gratitude. And then it just terrified everybody. So what are you grateful for today?
What are you grateful for? Yeah.
So
this is line number 5.
Yeah. By the way, that's probably the final thought on line number 5 is when you receive feedback, receive it with the right intention.
Yep.
Receive it with an open heart and not a wound.
Yep.
But receive it with the intention that you're getting feedback and be grateful for the fact that that person has enough tenacity to give you feedback that may be actionable, that can change an outcome, that moves you closer to that worthy ideal.
Yep.
So set your intention when you ask that question, because once you kick the door open, if your head's not on right, they will never tell you again.
Exactly. And this is actually, it's interesting. This is the last point on line number 5. If you've got accountability issues in your company, it's because people aren't giving each other honest feedback. You don't have a culture where feedback is valued. So accountability begins to, if you are truly vulnerably acknowledging the value of the feedback that you receive. You're going out of your way to solicit it, to ask for it. You begin to build the expectation of accountability because you're demonstrating it. I'm accountable for the movement I'm causing. How am I doing? You don't say accountability, but you actually demonstrate it. And that is what leadership is about. This is influence. You be what it is you want to have happen out there.
Final point. I'm not going to add. I'm not adding nothing to it.
Okay, so what do we go from here? I mean, this has been just kind of us riffing on these 5 lies. Today was lie number 5, and we spent about 25 minutes, just kind of unbundling this thing. This is one we could go for a long time. But the key here is actionable. This is. I mean, I'm glad you're listening. And hopefully you're getting some useful information here, but what are you going to do with it? That's what we want to be actually encouraging. We want you to be taking action so that you become more effective and impactful as a leader in your own organization, whether it's a family, whether it's a team, whether it's a large department, a division, whatever it might be. That's what we're after, because leaders make a difference in this world. So what's the next step? We got an invitation for you.
Yes, we do. And the importance for this slide, and we're going to only stay on this slide for just a moment, and you can read the black part over on the other side, is, look, nothing happens until something moves. That's Einstein who said that. And there are lots of things going to go into that. Most people hear things and they say, oh, that sounds cool. Oh, that sounds nice. But very few actually commit to the next step, to stay in the study, to become a member of a peer group, to actually focus on what do I need to do to be the best I can possibly be, to go polish the silverware for a year, to talk about a TV show for a moment. So when you're kind of in that moment, it's an opportunity to say, so what do I do? What's the next thing I do? So here's the invitation. So we talked a little bit about, I just mentioned, so here's the invitation, but here's why action matters.
This is tightly rehearsed. So
we are professionals, don't do this at home. But look, when
you want to back that up?
When you take action, exactly. Now, when you take action, it creates reinforcement, repetition, right? It reinforces the habits, builds momentum in your career. You increase confidence. In this particular case, we talk about increasing team commitment and confidence. As a leader, you have custody of other human beings. I had a great conversation with the ex-CEO of Covey this morning, Franklin Covey, talking about the commitment that we have to the people that we have custody of and their families. So you increase that confidence in the ability to do it, and you maximize impact. As a leader, your job is to create impact. Your job is to create impact. And I'll say it one more time. Your job is to create impact. And that impact includes the worthy goal, the outcomes, and the things that you're moving towards. So that's why the actions matter. And the action we're going to ask you to take is So Blaine and I are partnering on Leadership Mindset Mastermind. I'll let Blaine tell you more about it, but I'll give you one person's view on it, which is me. The Leadership Mindset Mastermind is designed to give you a peer group experience. It's an intimate group. It's not 100 people. It's an intimate group of people that come together once a week and learn powerful content, and not only learn and master powerful content, but go back and practice it. Work inside of a peer group. So you meet with a peer group led by mentors who have been through the mastermind several times. And it's an opportunity to take your skills to the next level and create that kind of engagement where you do have impact on your team, impact on your life, and impact, funny enough, impact on your family and those around you.
Yeah.
Because we talk about things that are not normally like strategy, tactics, and goals and vision and stuff like that. It's deeper.
The mindset piece of this is exactly where we work. studies show that only 5% of our conscious behavior is regulated by our conscious thoughts. 95% of the behavior that people engage in is driven by things that are out of sight, out of mind, out of awareness. And part of what we do, and this is why it takes a year, this is a year-long mastermind. Dolan and I have got combined almost, a little bit in excess of 90 years of experience doing leadership development work. 90 years, think about that. We're old guys. But we're also very adept at doing this. We know what the hell we're doing with this. This is not a theoretical program. I mean, this is a practical application of lessons that we have learned over 90 years that we are looking to actually codify in a way that you can chew on it, digest it, and immediately begin to do something with it. And it takes a year because we're working with the subconscious. We're working with ways to begin to uncover things that you've not noticed before. One of the things that becomes a hallmark of this is you start noticing what you've never noticed before. Notice what you're noticing. Squirrel. Now, why did I go pay attention to that? What was the triggering mechanism, and how is that tripping me up? These 5 lies. These 5 lies for most leaders live in the subconscious domain. We're not even really aware that that is a running program. Terminal stay resident it comes to mind here. An old coding language. When the computer boots up, programs boot up in the background. They're terminal, they stay resident, and they run the system. That's what's going on here, and that's what we want to interrupt. When you begin to interrupt a pattern, something new is possible. The entire focus of this mastermind program, Mindset Mastermind, is disrupting patterns that are not working and replacing them with new patterns, new ways of thinking that generate new results. That's what we're looking to do here. So it's a year-long program. Not going to give you any more information than that, except it's led by Dolan and I. It's a live facilitation. We meet every week for 52 weeks, and you've got one or both of us every week. And then there's a subgroup of that, the small cohort that becomes the actual working mastermind group, that is part of the program. And those mastermind groups change over, about every month. So you've got a new mix of people that are giving you feedback in a way that you can actually leverage it. So that's what we're looking to make happen here. This is the 5th year we're running this program. And as Dolan said, it's a tight group. We purposely keep this thing small. We're not interested in large, we're too old for that. We want to keep it intimate so we can actually facilitate conversations with this. If you've got questions, we're going to be available to answer them. If you've got a challenge, we're going to be available to give you some suggestions. So all of that is going to be part and parcel of this. So the QR code up in the corner there, you can just scan that and it'll take you to the landing page that is down in the banner down below here. So love to get your thoughts on this. No obligation on anything. When you go to this site, you're going to be basically, if you're interested, you'll be put on a waiting list, and you'll probably, you'll be able to schedule a meeting with either Dolan or myself, and we can give you a little bit more blow-by-blow description of what the program is. But don't be shy. There is no obligation. We're not going to sell you anything. But if you're interested in becoming a more effective leader, by all means, check this out. I think you'll be very pleased that you did.
There you go. And every session of the mastermind is equally as well rehearsed as this call today. So
absolutely,
you can anticipate that kind of an experience every time. So,
yeah, we have fun on this thing. I mean, we really do. We've been doing this, like I said, for 4 years, and it's a hoot. I mean, and it produces results. I mean, it has produced some dramatic results for the folks that have been through the program. So, again, don't be shy. No obligation. There's no arm twisting. There's no upselling, no downselling, no side selling, none of that. If you want to have a conversation, check us out.
There you go. That's the ask.
That's the ask. And this coming Thursday at noon, we will be doing another Power of You program. We're going to leave the 5 lies behind, and we're going to land on another topic and do a deep dive on that one. It's all about leadership, and it's all about you, the power of you. Yep.
So do come join us. We appreciate you listening. Thank you for being with us here today. look forward. Reach out to us on LinkedIn. You can DM either Blaine or myself, or YouTube, or however you're going to get to us. But be happy to have a chat with you. So thanks.
Thanks. Take care.